So I hope Dream Chasing Mike here has a monetized account, because he has the most banger tweet that I've ever seen in my life. 283.3 million views at the time of recording this video, because he set off a massive firestorm on, I guess we call men's Twitter. I think 100 men could beat one gorilla. Everyone just got to be real dedicated to it. Well, Dream, I think you're right. And everyone was like, whoa, wait. No. Have you seen gorillas? I mean, literally, I need you to be serious. And don't get me wrong, gorillas are giant and terrifying beasts. I've been to zoos where they've had gorillas. There was one where, like, the gorilla was on the same sort of level as you, and it was just hanging around the cage. And it was a really chill creature, obviously. But it wasn't pissed off for whatever reason. It's going to be pissed off and fighting 100 of us, right? But the thing was colossal, and I mean, it's pretty scary. They've got really strong bite force, and of course they're really physically powerful. And so this sparked huge amounts of discussion, massive amounts of discourse all across the internet. And of course that meant that women felt the need to leap in and give their opinion. Do gorillas even know you're planning on jumping them with 100 people? Excuse me, love. This is not your discussion. I'm sorry to say. We actually don't need women's input on the discussion of whether we can beat up a silverback gorilla. So obviously we look at the stats, right? So typically weight 300 to 500 pounds, and I've seen estimates they can be up to 600 pounds. So let's take the strongest gorilla versus 100 average men. Right, so they stand around 5 to 6 feet tall, although I've seen reports of ones that stand like 6.5 feet tall, so they can be massive. But that's not the issue. The issue is that they are just tanks. And so estimates that they are 4 to 9 times stronger than a trained man. So let's say they're just 10 times stronger than the average man. So one gorilla, same strength as 10 men. Right, okay, interesting. And of course, they are big, tough, beastly things when they get going. And let's assume that the gorilla wants the fight as well. The gorilla's like, yeah, no, I'm totally up for this. I'm going to get you, right? And so people were like, well, hang on a second. Like, what are you going to do when he snaps the first one of you in half? Who's going to want to go next? And that's a good question, actually. I mean, you know, if you've got 100 of us lined up and someone steps forward and the gorilla just crushes him, well, it's probably going to do something to the morale of those people going afterwards. And so you have people creating simulations on how a gorilla would potentially fight people. I mean, obviously it wouldn't work like this. Like, I mean, what are these guys in the back doing? Just looking around. Look, this AI. I expect us to be a bit more coordinated than this, lads. Just giving him a free pass if we fight a gorilla like this. I mean, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, Rory, the editor of Islander, said, as a rugby player, it's clear that most people commenting on this hypothetical don't fully understand the reality of body mass, strength, and speed combined. A player like Jonah Lomu, 1.96 meters tall and 119 kilograms, that's about 240, 50 pounds, something like that, for Americans, was one of the fastest players on the pitch in his prime and practically unstoppable at full speed, even with multiple tacklers. Now compare that to an adult male gorilla, capable of lifting up to 800 kilograms and sprinting at 40 kilometers an hour, so about 26 miles per hour. Maybe 100 Jonah Lomus or whoever else is could stand a chance against a gorilla, but 100 average blokes of varying sizes, no chance. Well, to this, I disagree. I think that actually the average men can win, and we're going to win by using our big human brains. Now, I can't help but notice that all of the assumptions up until this point is we're just going to walk up to it and start throwing punches, and then the gorilla's just going to throw punches back, just like in this simulation where the gorilla handily kills 100 people. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that probably would not work. But at the end of the day, we're humans, goddammit. We're going to use our big, juicy brains to defeat this gorilla. Gorillas are smart, but I think we've got them beaten in the tactics game. So let's assume it's one raging gorilla and 100 men who, for some reason, have decided it is do or die, right? So the men aren't going to run away. The gorilla can't run away or won't run away. And so, right, we all know we're in this arena. There's nowhere to go. There's no backing down. We just have to Hulk out and kill each other. So first things first. If everyone just rushes the gorilla, like a gorilla is about twice as heavy as a man, possibly 3 times as heavy. So that is big, but I think it's that we're thinking from our own individual perspectives. Whereas if 100 men, I mean, if 20 men jumped on the gorilla probably gets pinned down, right? So even if it manages to like kill 1 or 2, it gets pinned down. And then once it's pinned down, as long as we can control its limbs and if it can't lift up its arm to crush you, if it can't grab you and snap you in half, if it can't run away, then surely we can like strangle it or something, right? Get it in the eyes. I don't know. The gorillas, they're big and tough, but they're not invulnerable, right? Enough kicks to the head, I think will probably do it. Although, let's be fair, it's probably going to be a lot of kicks to the head. A gorilla's got a massive skull. But it might take a while, but eventually we'll be able to club it. And if, again, you've got like 5 guys on each limb, like, a gorilla's strong, man, but it's not that strong. If using its entire body can deadlift 800 pounds, well, if you get like 800 pounds of human on each arm, well, it can't just deadlift that, right? Especially if you've got the legs as well and it can't get any purchase. So I think we can actually, if we were totally coordinated, just grab it and get it to the floor and, strangle it, do whatever it is we need to do to kill it, just keep kicking it, whatever it is. So I think just on a raw power scale, 100 men who, like the original Dream Chasing Mike pointed out, so that we just have to be dedicated. As in, if it's us or the gorilla, like, some evil aliens like, right, you all have to kill this gorilla or else everyone on Earth dies. We'd be like, right, okay. Well, I guess we're going to have to kill the gorilla, lads, right? So we're going to have to go for it. And I think Mike is correct on this, right? And I like this warning sign. If you ain't ready to die, don't sign up. Because, yeah, I think that method would definitely incur some casualties. Obviously, we're not going to fight it one-on-one. We've got to rush it and just grab something and hold it down while whoever's left get in on it like this, right? I think that's totally plausible, can totally be done. However, we were talking about this in the office today, because obviously we were. And I was just sat there ruminating on this, being like, yeah, because everyone was like, yeah, okay, I mean, a gorilla's massive. It can probably, kill you if it grabs you and snaps you or something, or crush your skull or whatever, right? It can probably do that. And I agree that that's probably true. But why would we let it, right? Because humans are not the fastest or strongest or tallest or quickest, but we do basically have the most endurance. Like, so I remember watching a documentary a few years ago about this Australian sheep herder who literally developed a new style of long distance running that allowed him to run for like 3 days straight, as in without sleep and without stopping. He just would run because apparently he needed to chase down sheep. And this turned into a new sort of marathon technique. So these guys would literally just run forever, basically. Now, as a fat, untrained person, I'm like, oh, God, that sounds terrible. But we don't have to go for 3 days straight, right? So basically what we would need to do, and I think we could do this, I honestly think we could do this with literally 0 casualties. I'm not going to say there won't be a few injuries. There probably will. But I think we could do it with basically 0 casualties. And absolutely whitewash the gorilla, right? So the way that we do this is by keeping our distance from the gorilla and forming a perimeter around him. So he's got no particular way to go. And we come in, one guy behind him runs in, woo, scares it, and gets the gorilla to chase him, runs back to the line, and then other people from other sides come in to distract the gorilla and make sure that it diverts itself, or if it keeps going for that guy, then we just try and grab it or whatever. But make sure that its attention is divided and just keep doing this for as long as is necessary for the gorilla to be hugely out of breath and panting, absolutely heaving. And then we keep doing it. And then, get more bold if we have to. Go in with a couple of like flying kicks and then move on, right? Run past, kick it, move on. So it's just constantly under pressure because there are 100 of us. Like, we've definitely got sufficient numbers to keep the gorilla on its toes and, keep it unable to settle. And the thing is, if we just keep doing this enough, not only are we going to do a bit of minor damage to it, but it's going to get exhausted. And this is the thing about humans. We are going to, I think, a small group of humans, I think 10 men could do this and keep the gorilla completely occupied while also keeping it active until it is just exhausted, because I severely doubt gorillas have the same kind of endurance that humans do. I mean, gorillas, like, I looked this up. In fact, I think it's on here. They don't move. It's not on this one, but I looked this up. They only move about 1 kilometer a day. Like, they can, in short bursts, they can run quickly. They can move like 25 miles an hour, something like that. So don't get me wrong, don't do a sprint with it, but you only have to get out of its way to get it distracted by someone else before he runs off, and then he runs off, and then he runs off. And we can keep doing that. But we can do that for hours, whereas the gorilla probably can't do that for hours. And then when it's starting to flag, then we go in and grab it. And like literally 10 guys on each arm, or however many guys. I mean, gorilla arms are like 5 feet long, so surely we can get a bunch of guys on each arm and just pile on each other, pin the arm down on both sides. I think the gorilla's done, man, because I think it's going to be totally out of energy by that point. And then we can stamp on its face or choke it or whatever it is to our heart's content. Maybe taking a few wounds, but I think 0 casualties. I genuinely think 0 casualties in this. I think we've got this one. And I think that, again, I don't think it takes 100 guys to do this. I think 10 or 20 could do this. It just wouldn't be easy. And the thing is, we've been discussing this all day. Well, not all day, but for an hour or two in the office today, which is my favourite kind of discussion. And then for some, I guess my phone's just listening to me or whatever. And then this thread popped up on my Twitter feed. And it's from a chap called Caleb, who says that he has a degree specifically in monkeys and is uniquely qualified to address the discourse. And Caleb says that he's a wildlife biologist and talks about these things. He has him in his bio, so I'll take it with a grain of salt. But he's got a really long thread here that basically, I think, confirms a lot of my points. And so he goes, look, the real question of who'd win. In my opinion, most people drastically overestimate the size, strength, intelligence, and endurance and aggressiveness of gorillas. Don't get me wrong, they're incredibly powerful animals, but it was a debate whether a grizzly could beat one is ridiculous. Yeah, this is another thing. Like, grizzly bears are like more than twice the size and have like just giant butcher's knives on each hand. Like a gorilla would get crushed by a grizzly bear. And he says, on average, a male silverback weighs to 340 pounds, but let's take the largest, right? And is still 4 or 5 times stronger than the average man who works out, so we're definitely taking casualties. But this isn't enough to just rip apart every man. So it's not like, I don't know, like Thanos-like strength or whatever, where he's popping people open. So the gorilla still has to exert a lot of energy to kill the guy. And so even if he killed, like even if we were just fighting one-on-one and the gorilla was like throwing punches until we were, each man's dead, like a couple of punches until each guy's dead, like that's still a lot of energy that the gorilla has to exert. So even if he punched to death like 30 or 40 guys, there's still 60 guys left. And go on a punch bag, start throwing punches for a minute and tell me it's not tiring, So he says it's not enough to rip apart every man instantaneously before a couple of guys in each limb are able to restrain him. Even so, he'd likely tire out fairly quickly relative to humans who have kind of maxed out our cardio endurance in exchange for strength the other apes have retained. An exhausted gorilla would struggle to fight like 7 guys, let alone dozens. I think 30 or 40 men would probably be enough to take on the average silverback, and that's assuming he has a counter-instinctual bloodlust rather than fleeing from a large group of aggressors like any wild animal would. And yeah, we'll create the scenario that for some reason we have an insane gorilla and we just don't have a choice. There's no escape. We have to fight this thing to the death. He says, I've seen a lot of people argue it's impossible for us to hurt as a gorilla, but we're their third closest relative and we share a lot of their weaknesses. Or they share a lot of our weaknesses. They have denser muscle and skin, and thick skin maybe, but it's not immune to blunt force from fist kicks, especially in soft places like the face, neck, internal organs, and groin, and rupturing a vital artery is definitely on the table with enough manpower. They're not going to tank every single hit like, I don't know, a polar bear likely could. Yeah, I tell you what, I don't think 100 guys could take a polar bear. If the gorilla was fighting with maximally efficient tactics, I'd maybe give it a higher threshold of men it could take on, but they're generally regarded as the least intelligent great apes by primatologists, and this is because gorillas are primarily foliivores, and the calorific costs associated with fueling a powerful brain aren't as worth it when you're specializing in leaves, which are easy to find and impossible to monopolize. This also means there's less fitness benefit conferred by high position in the social hierarchy of females. They don't exhibit the complex social dynamics seen in chimps or many monkeys, where those with higher social dexterity see greater fitness outcomes. Essentially, they kind of diverged into to evolving more towards the direction of weird forest cows than intelligence like us and chimps. Where our most recent common ancestor with chimps focused on fruit, requiring a lot of intelligence memory to find the time and phrenology of, and needs to monopolize, leading to complex social dynamics, enough of a payoff to make, leading to complex social dynamics and enough of a payoff to make dumping calories into brain power worth it. So if a hypothetical gorilla-sized chimp existed, I'd probably give it a higher man threshold, but unfortunately they don't. Wait, unfortunately they don't? Thank God gorilla-sized chimps don't exist. Like, gorillas are lovely, man. Chimps are just pure evil. Anyway, so that's his perspective, and honestly, I find myself concurring with it. Like, a gorilla is a massive and dangerous animal, right? Don't get me wrong. If you encounter one in the wild somehow, like you're wandering around the Congo for whatever reason, don't go and size up to it. Like, Mike Tyson apparently wanted to box a gorilla once. Pretty sure a gorilla would crush him because he's just a man, and a gorilla is a gorilla. But a gorilla is not like an immortal godlike being. It's still a primate, and as strong as it is, I think about half a dozen of us could grab an arm and pin it. If we got 100 guys, we could definitely do it. And if we spend a lot of time in advance wearing out, so it's basically completely out of energy, I'm pretty sure that we can crush the gorilla. So I say Team Human, let's do this.